was April 18th, 2005. Outside Scranton, Pennsylvania, the aftermath of Mike and Emily Frank's wedding had an unexpected turn. At approximately 7:38 p.m., Mike's older brother, William Frank, was murdered at the scene, witnessed by William's wife, Lisa. The murderer, Hank Frank, youngest of the three Frank brothers. Years earlier, in 2003, William, Mike, and Hank's father, Otto Frank, died. In his will, he left his massive paper company and the majority of its assets to his eldest son, William. Hank was left unsatisfied with his share and spent the next several years with a grudge against William. When Mike returned home from military service in June of 2004, he was appointed vice president of the company by William, further upsetting Hank and leading him to envy both of his brothers. In the months that followed the announcement that Mike and Emily were engaged, Hank would occasionally blow up in front of his brothers, enraged at how unfairly life had been treating him, consistently pinning the blame on William. Conversely, William continued to refuse Hank any of the company shares that Hank asked for, insisting that he was too immature to run a business. Around this time as well, William would have several affairs with his wife Lisa's best friend, leading to a steady decline in their marriage. William would receive several death threats from Lisa if he were to ever cheat on her again. The wedding ceremony of Mike and Emily occurred from 2:30 to 3:14 p.m. on April 18th, 2005, and guests began leaving at around 10 till 7. The ones left were William, Hank, and Lisa Frank, as well as Ann Mendel. Hank sends Ann home in a taxi and walks over to the dining hall. There, he sees William and Lisa arguing. Lisa berates William for cheating on her with her best friend. In the process, part of the tablecloth comes off, and Lisa takes one of the glasses from it and throws it onto William's shoulder. Hank runs in, believing this to be his moment to let out his frustrations on his brother. Hank stabs William in the back with a pencil, killing him almost instantly. Hank attempts to stop the excessive bleeding by pressing his feet on the wound, leaving a significant amount of blood on the bottoms of his shoes. He then tries to wipe some of the blood off his shoes with his palm. He and Lisa hurry out a nearby door after Lisa steals the keys to William's car. Hank leaves a bloody handprint on the doorknob. Lisa cuts through the grass, while Hank takes the sidewalk, leaving a trail of bloody footprints behind. Noticing this as he gets to his car, Hank takes off his dress shoes and leaves them on the parking lot floor. Nearby Emeryville police officer Charles Hamlin arrived at the scene at 7:47 p.m. As first responder, it is his job to secure the crime scene by clearing any people who may be there, as well as taping off places of interest. This was also to ensure that no possible evidence would be contaminated before it reaches the lab for testing. Hamlin then calls CSI Jesse H. Eisenberg, who arrives at 7:59 p.m. As CSI, it is Eisenberg and his team's job to search the scene in one of 4 patterns: grid, which goes up, down, left, and right around the room; linear, which goes back and forth around the room; spiral, which starts on the outside and makes its way towards the middle; and quadrant, which would assign CSIs to certain sections of the crime scene. Eisenberg decides to take a linear search pattern as he moves from the body to the door. Noticing the door to be slightly ajar, he instructs his assistants to check the other side. They find that the bloody footprints continue out into the sidewalk and onto the parking lot, where they find a pair of bloody dress shoes on the asphalt. Eisenberg found several parts of the crime scene in which to photograph, a few areas of note being William's body and the bloody dress shoes. The body and shoes are both taken in several ways. Firstly, in 3 angles in what we'd call an overview shot. Secondly, 3 angles in mid-range shot. And thirdly, 3 angles in close-up shot. Close-up will have 2 pictures for each angle, one without a photo macro graphic scale and one with. Sketching the overall scene, Eisenberg determined the scale used in the sketch, making sure to write his name, the date, and a small compass-like indicator to let investigation know which direction the crime scene is facing on a map. Eisenberg, after thoroughly searching both inside and outside, identifies the dining hall to be the primary crime scene, and the bloody footprint trail as a secondary scene. At 8:10 p.m., Officer Hamlin brings Mike and Emily to the police station, being careful to separate them in order to get an accurate account of the event. See if their stories match up and spot any differences. Their accounts correlated relatively the same. When it came to collecting blood from William's shirt, a sterile cotton swab was dabbed onto it, which was then put into a porous paper bag. The same was also done for the blood on the wooden floors of the dining hall and the prints on the sidewalk. The broken glass from the table was collected with tweezers and then put in a paper bindle, and later moved to an evidence bag by Eisenberg's team. Fingerprint powder was also applied to the pencil and lightly dusted, where the print was collected with a piece of tape and then put in a fingerprint card. The chain of custody for this evidence is as follows. 1. It is collected by CSI. 2. It is given to either law enforcement or the medical examiners, depending on what type of evidence it is, and may be entered into a database. And 3. It is submitted to the courts and filed as case evidence for a crime. Following all crime scene processing, William's body was delivered to the medical examiner at around 8:48 p.m. There, Whitman could guarantee that William was, with absolute certainty, 100% dead. Oh, whoops, it turns out that Hank was being a little dummy. He is a high school dropout after all. And all that blood he left behind got him caught almost immediately. So I think the lesson for today is not to drop out of high school. Okay, bye.